Let's see what we're talking about. Head up the ramp in your regular stance. Keep your knees nice and soft. Manual the front wheels off of the ramp. Let the back truck hit the coping. Pivot on that back truck. Commit your weight back into the ramp. Heel pressure to keep the toe side wheel from hanging up. And then keep your knees nice and bent and ride away. I've been looking forward to learning the frontside pivot because it seems like a good route in to the frontside 5-0 grind, which is a bit of a dream of mine. Whew! Whistling across that coping, grinding, front trucks up in the air. Yee-hoo-hoo-hoo! To start work on these, I went with the strategy of breaking the move down into 2 parts. So first of all, the entry, which is to come up the ramp, manual the front wheels off, get that truck locked onto the coping with the front wheels up in a jaunty angle, and see if I could pivot round. The second part of the trick is the re-entry, and I've had a bit of previous experience with coming back in a similar fashion because I did a video a while back on the fakie 5-0 stall and back in, and that's got the same re-entry motion. The thing I had a lot of trouble with was the hang up. So trying to come back in and catching the toe wheel on the coping, whoo, over the front, oh my gosh. So to start with, I set the goal of going up, executing the pivot and coming round and resting with the tail on the ramp in that 5-0 stance. From there, I thought I could then experiment with coming back in. And then once I'd mastered going up into the stall and coming back in, I could work on balancing on the truck without the tail hitting the ramp, thus allowing me to pivot round in one fluid movement, coming back in. A bit of a battle ensued, and as ever, there were plenty of frills and spills. Okay, let's talk through some of the problems I experienced. First one, not getting a lock on the coping. This was due to not pumping hard enough, not bending my knees, and not getting on top of the coping, getting any lock of the wheels on, thus the board slipping back down the transition. Whew, chance of skinning the old shins. The second one was coming across and trying to carve into the turn. This feels pretty natural to come in and try and cut across the ramp, narrow the amount of pivot you need to do, and also lean back a bit. But I found, as ever with skateboarding, it's a bit counterintuitive, and going directly straight up the ramp and leaving my pivot to the last minute actually helped the wheel to lock on the coping and also allowed me to get over the board. The main thing for getting on top of the coping and stalling is to allow the front knee to get right up, allowing the board on a jaunty angle whilst centering your weight over the board. If anything, it felt to me like I needed to lean forwards into the turn and also leave my body out in the transition, and that allowed my body to stay centered and give me somewhere to come into the transition without spooning off the back. Once I got up into the stall, I found the best lock-in was to have my heel side wheel right up against the coping. This meant when I was coming back in, I had something solid to push off of, and the key thing to stop the hang-up when coming back in was to put all my weight on my back heel, and that meant that the toe wheel had no pressure on it and it could just skip over that coping and come back in. If I left my pressure central, so toe and heel even, there was a good chance with this lock-in that toe wheel could catch. Just like when you do the front side axle stall, heel side wheels right up against the coping and then push off, pivot and keep your weight on that back foot. I found it took quite a bit of practice to find the balance point on the back truck so I could do a smooth pivot without the tail having to go down on the ramp. But following a bit of practice, I managed to get the feel of it. Following on from my backyard mini ramp experiments, I was eager to take this to the local indoor skate park and try it on some taller and steeper ramps, and oh my gosh, as usual, it felt like a different trick altogether. Getting the lock-in wasn't too tricky, but I was finding I wasn't committing back in and was doing a lot of jumping off. So I decided to tweak my strategy and try to concentrate on the coming back in part. I did this via the fakie frontside 5-0 stall. For this one, you come in fakie, up the ramp, stall in the 5-0 position, and this gives you a bit of time to think about the nitty gritty of re-entering the ramp. After I got a couple of these to slide back in, I remembered the feel of the back heel pressure needed and also that toe wheel clearance, and that gave me the confidence to start getting up into the frontside pivot and then come straight back in with gay abandon. As a final mission, I thought I'd test my skills by seeing if I could get a frontside pivot in the 5-foot section of the bowl. All of the key points I'd worked out on the mini ramp were exactly the same for the larger transition. The only thing to overcome was the fear factor, so I needed to up my commitment level and also accept the consequences if it went wrong. To start with, I couldn't quite get up on the top, and then when I did, I was so surprised. I tried to come back in and got the dreaded hang up to the flat. In the bowl, I followed the same strategy of getting my eye in with a few fakie frontside axle stalls and also the fakie frontside 5-0 stall. This helped me get the confidence to come back in. After I got that one out the way, I felt a bit more confident with really committing and going for it, and I managed to get a frontside pivot in the bowl. Okay, that's it for the frontside pivot. Those were a lot of fun. Let's run through the key points in real time. So, heading up the ramp in your regular stance, knees nice and soft. Go directly straight up the ramp, manual the front wheels off whilst keeping your weight forwards and inside the ramp. Let the truck hit the coping, push the heel side wheel across for the lock. Keep that heel pressure on as you centre your weight and bend your knee right up. Pivot around, balancing on the truck, and then come back in, commit the heel pressure, stamp the front foot down, and ride away. I look forward to practicing these more, especially on the larger transitions, and my main goal here is to get comfortable enough with the frontside pivot to be able to start coming in on an angle, thus generating sideways momentum, which will lead to the frontside 5-0 grind. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for the day I make one of those bad boys. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos every week. As ever, my name's been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.